Kevin in Carlsbad, how are you?
Hi, Don and Matt. How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I am just fine. I've been catching your videos on YouTube. That's how I found out about you. And today's the first time I tried getting on the internet and streaming down to watch you. And I thought
awesome.
I'd call in. So
is it working?
Yeah, it is. It's about. A matter of fact, I'm in the other room away from my computer because there's about a 20-second lag. What you see.
Oh, it's very distracting, isn't it?
Yeah,
So good for you for stepping away.
Watching, so
yeah,
I'm in here talking. So.
Thank you very much for going to the other room. And do you know why it's working? It's working because we have people like Joe Rhodes who busted his ass for years to make this show better. And so I'm going to keep thanking Joe over
folks
and over.
back there. So,
and the other folks in the studio, you know.
Oh,
Stephen Frank and Shelley, etc.
I was just going to say it's God's will that it's working. So.
It's working because, you know, it says in the New Testament that wherever any two Christians get together and ask for something in God's name, it'll be granted. So clearly, no two Christians have gotten together to pray that this show goes away.
Although we do have our share of technical difficulties.
Yeah. Well, the devil, he's in there too.
Right.
Well, listen, reason why I'm calling, I kind of wanted to just get your take on this or your opinion on this. And first of all, are you? I'm sure you probably are. You've heard of Pat Condell and familiar with him?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I recently discovered his videos on YouTube, and boy, when I first started watching, I couldn't get enough. I just watched one after another. I thought, my God, this guy is saying everything.
He's got great rants, doesn't he? Yep.
Yeah, he does, and rant is what he does. But boy, he is good. But anyway, what the reason why I called is I'm a member of a very, very small minority, I believe, and that is the conservative atheists. And the problem that I see is that being the conservative, I feel that the religious people are damaging conservatism, and in so doing, I feel that they're really doing this country a disservice. I don't understand. There is no, in my mind, there's no link between conservative beliefs of constitutional, strict adherence to the Constitution and financial responsibility and so on and so forth, these things that conservatives hold dear. There's no tie-in between that and religion. And yet the unfortunate thing is that in a lot of cases, conservatism is being treated. It's like throwing the baby out with the bath because of this link to religion. And
now, would you say that you're socially conservative or fiscally conservative or both? Or
fiscally conservative and socially pretty libertarian. I favor. I think the drug problem could be solved by the legalization of drugs, and there's got to be some control to it, and perhaps people that are addicted, they would get prescriptions from doctors. But I'm against a lot of the gay bashing and stuff that goes on. Although I feel with gays and lesbians, I'm not real 100% in agreement with them, simply because a lot of them have a liberal agenda too that mixes in with their rights that they're trying to fight for. So,
well, I think these divisions are evolving in our country, and with the Reagan era, there was this strong association with the Republican Party and Christianity, and I think it was a negative both for our country and for the Republican Party. I think you're seeing another restructuring going on with this Tea Party thing. I think that it's the beginnings of another shakeout, and it may be that this is a time where real conservatives can take back the party, or create a new party, or do something in order to gather together and bring some sanity back. I think we really need that as a country. I think having a good debate about particular issues is a healthy thing, a good thing. Let's decide things based on facts and these sorts of things. Let's get rid of all this this vitriol and just wacky decision making that's going on, vilifying people. So you have a chance, I think, to be part of that. And there are people in our group, I think, that are similar to you as far as the viewpoints, and are very frustrated with the Republican Party as it is now. And roll up your sleeves and see about fixing it.
I think that part of the problem is this linking. The reason that I had to ask you if you were fiscally conservative versus socially conservative is that we've used conservative as a label for too many things. It doesn't really tell us anything at all about the individual, because one could be fiscally liberal and socially conservative, and one could be fiscally conservative and socially liberal and still call themselves, a conservative, because that's why I have to ask. And so I think, you're certainly not alone. There are within our group and other groups people associated with all different parties, Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, Socialist, whatever. And so there are many in those different categories that would identify as fiscally conservative. The problem is that because the world operates on money, there's been this linking of fiscal conservatism with the social conservatism, and it's become the louder voice.
Right.
And I don't know what to tell you other than what Don said about, continue to work, and maybe as these things change, we'll find better labels and categories to put ourselves in. But what's happened, I think, in part, is that some people who would have normally identified as perhaps Republican have shifted to Libertarian, and some people who would have identified as Democrat have shifted to Libertarian, and then they've farmed out to other parties. And I've completely flip-flopped, whereas once upon a time I would have been both fiscally and socially conservative. I'm now fiscally moderate and socially liberal, like ultra-liberal. Although I'm not in favor of legalizing cannibalism or anything, but which is why I can't be a libertarian.
No, I think you're right. Libertarian seems to be that seems to be a growing movement, and I think maybe people like myself are starting to move in that direction. And
I think there are a lot of very frustrated people. I mean, this is a religion show, so I don't know how much we should talk about politics, but I think there are a lot of people frustrated in the United States, and hopefully there'll be a shakeout for the better soon.
And I'm no historian, so I may actually get this wrong, but my suspicion, based on what I've heard, is that basically the change in, for example, the Republican Party, it was in danger, and what was used was the Red Scare in the 50s that we talked about, that organized people of a religious mindset under one banner, and it became kind of like the party charge. They became the standard bearers and then overtook it. How do you fix that? I don't know. Well, we've had so much damage done in a decade, 2-decade period in the middle of the last century, because if you look at where atheists and freethinkers were publicly at the end of the 19th century, when you had people like Robert Greene Ingersoll, who were he gave the keynote address for the Republican National Party. He was known as the Great Agnostic, debated preachers, gave lectures out in the open on the problems with the Bible and things like that. And then it became kind of taboo to talk about, we don't talk about religion and politics because we want to have nice, peaceful dinners. This is. I'm gonna nitpick with a minor rant for a second, and it's gonna let some of my political leanings fly. But it's about the mindset here. I've come under fire, as have a number of other atheists, that have been identified as new atheists as being too outspoken or too confrontational by a group of people that have been labeled accommodationists. To me, the accommodationists, the let's all get along and have a big tent, that's currently happening in this secular schism that I've labeled, they're the same type of people that made talking about religion and politics taboo. Let's just keep the peace and have a nice quiet dinner party rather than actually discussing things that are real, things that matter. Let's not have any conflict. When it's conflict that actually helps the world change, it's the struggle that helps the world change.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Seeking this dull gray medium is just so patently offensive to me. And I'll tell you this, that while I do tend to vote Democratic, I don't always vote that way, but I think that the reason that the Democrats lost the House, and they're doing predictably what PZ and others said they would do, is because there are too many people in the Democratic Party that were elected with an accommodationist mindset of we don't want to ruffle too many feathers, let's see what we can do without losing our positions, and that's why they lost them. I think what we need is Democrats with sacks who are actually willing to do what they say, because I think you'll find that a lot of Democrats aren't ultra-liberal fiscally and socially. This broad spectrum encompasses a lot of different views within a particular label, Democrat, Republican, whatever. And I think you'll find the same thing on the Republican side, that there are some, perhaps many, who would not necessarily fit into that narrow little box. But we have, if anything, the poison that's been taking over is this accommodationist idea of, let's seek the least common denominator in everything. It irks the crap out of me.
Well, that's just one form of poison.
Why can't we all just get along type of thing?
Yeah,
that's one form
I'll tell you why we
poison.
can't get along, because some people are wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And
this cult of
and you have
personality.
to stand up for your principles. Otherwise, constant compromise gets nobody anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Let me leave you with one thought here, and see what you think of this. I don't know that this is true or not, but it's an idea, and that is that the religious people in the Republican Party, they are religious. One of the things that they need is a feeling that they're being taken care of, and with them, of course, it's God that they feel takes care of them. On the other side, as far as the liberals go, and once again, we're painting a broad brush here, but I think there may be that same need there, the need to feel as if they're being taken care of. Now, with them, it's not God; it's government.
There may be something to that.
I think there's some truth to what you're saying. Yes.
I don't know how much truth there is to it, but there may be something along those lines.
There have been some studies recently. I don't have any names, but that identify kind of liberal and conservative values, and that there's a huge overlap between the two of them.
Right.
But there's a couple values that are, the priorities are different.
Yeah.
And I wish I had more to give you on that, but it'd be worth looking that up, because the differences are pretty small. Really, we're sort of all human at the core.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's kept us from clearly identifying exactly what the differences are, so that we might be able to make progress on them, is this idea, this live and let live idea of we don't want to talk too much about the differences between us. We want to pretend that we're already on the same page, when in fact, if we noticed that we weren't on the same page, we could correct it and maybe get more people on the same page. But I'm just kind of guessing at this point, because I'm not advocating a utopia, and I don't think that
There's
it's
a
realistic
lot of sausage
goal.
making in politics, right? Where you don't necessarily want to see how it's made.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot for calling, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your opinions and your commentary. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye.